We're talking Kansas City Chiefs football on the Our Lads Football Network. And when that happens, Charles Goldman is here to let us know what's going on with the two-time defending champs from A to Z Sports, NFL. How's it going, Charles?
It's going well, Greg. I'm happy to be here joining you, talking some Chiefs football. It's the best time of the year for football, like we were just saying.
Absolutely. For NFL, college football, you can't get, especially this year in college, we've got all the 12-team playoffs. So this is going to be a hell of a month, a hell of a couple of months. So sit back and enjoy. And the Chief fans have had a lot to enjoy the last few years, winning Super Bowls. This year, things do seem a little bit different, not record-wise, but everybody's talking about the statistics and how they're just not, they're not adding up. A matter of fact, we have a newsletter. Actually, Mark Lawrence, one of our partners here from Playbook Sports, has a coffee club email that comes out every day. And on the email, I noticed there was a stat of the day. It was 54. And what it meant was since 2000, there have been 23 NFL teams with 11 or more wins through week 13. And again, remember that number, 54. The 2024 Chiefs have by far the worst point differential at 54 plus. So that's not really surprising when you're watching the games and you see what's going on. But considering how the Chiefs kind of, they weren't all that fantastic going into the playoffs last year. They were the dogs. I mean, in every game, they were the dogs. And so people probably kind of, they just, they're not going to win. They won last year. They're just not playing as well. They're going to lose. They didn't lose. They kept defying the odds. They kept winning. But this year does seem a little bit different. Do you think that can change now that they're getting a little healthier?
I do think it can change. Just to comment on the point differential, I mean, I think across the board, you look at the rest of the league, and there have been a lot of one-score games this year. Like, I think that it's probably more of a common trend and, speaks more to the parity of the league than just the Chiefs. I think it's magnified a bit because the Chiefs are the Chiefs, right? They're this team that's been winning. They're,
so much. Sure.
Right. They're back-to-back champs and they're still winning. And they're, also, they're in all these big moments, right? They're, on prime time playing the big spots. They're always, all the eyes are on the team, right? So it gets magnified a little bit. The fact that they're playing and winning all these close games and, the drama in some of them has probably added a little bit to it, right? The fumble this last week, the blocked field goal against the Broncos a few weeks back, even going back to the first game of the season with the toe in the line in the back of the end zone with the Ravens, right? Like, these things that are happening aren't necessarily like the norm and are a little bit more dramatic. And I think that probably adds a little bit to it. But, as far as the team getting healthier, I think that's the thing that gets overlooked. I mean, you put the injuries that the Chiefs had this year on any other team in the league, and they're not even close to 11-1, right? Sure. The fact that this Chiefs team has won despite those injuries, wide receiver, running back, starting kicker, number 2 cornerback, their entire backup tight end room, besides Noah Gray, has been decimated. They've persisted through all these different injuries, and they've been able to adjust and do just enough. And I think, once you get some of these pieces back, we saw this last week with Isaiah Pacheco, Charles Omenihu. Isaiah Pacheco's first week back has the longest run of the season for the Kansas City Chiefs, and his first week back from injury. Charles Omenihu, he's back in the lineup. They have 3 sacks when they're rushing just 4 players that game. The first week that Charles Omenihu's back in the lineup. You want to know how many sacks they have the rest of the season, rushing just 4? It's not many. It's about half, or double that amount, right? So you're seeing some of these pieces come back and things are starting to click a little bit more. And I think it's only going to continue to, change and grow as they get some of these pieces back, as they get some of these new pieces integrated. The one that everyone's keeping their eye on right now is left tackle DJ Humphries, because that is the big problem spot for Kansas City, left tackle position right now.
Well, talk about it, because that was definitely going to be one of the things I was going to hammer you at, because matter of fact, one of my co-hosts from a different show and another channel at Proline TV said to me, he actually did a video on the Chiefs and talked about, I don't know, this tackle position for the Chiefs is just not good. They got to do something about it. And so, can they do something about it?
Yeah, I think they can. I think, the one thing about the tackle position this year, I think, in training camp in the offseason, they gave the rookie Kingsley Suamataia as many snaps as possible. They gave him every opportunity to come in, earn the job, hit the season running with some confidence. And I think just the first 2 weeks, the magnitude of those two games, the AFC North games, I think that was a little tough, right? So, Kingsley has the bad game against the Bengals, and then they bring in Wanya Morris, who, mind you, there's a little bit of, a sense that he probably would have been the starter for Kansas City had some things gone differently in the offseason, right? So when I was at training camp, people will recall there was a day where Wanya Morris got hurt, and it was pretty like scary scene. Everyone who was there, they're watching, they're like, wow, this could be a major injury, right? All the players are down on one knee, like practice gets stopped. Like it was a scary, sombering moment. And, we learn the next couple of days, he's got, a knee injury, but it's not a severe knee injury. It's a bone bruise or a severe bone bruise, right? It's not torn ACL or any of these things. But, he's going to be out for some time. So he's out for the remainder of camp. They get, Suamataia in there. And then towards the end of camp, he's getting healthier. Wanya is. And he comes back and plays the, I think, final or second to last preseason game, one of the preseason games, and he bangs the knee again, gets hurt again, and they take him out. They don't play him in those first two games, right? And then throughout the season, he has more re-aggravations of this knee, and it's become very clear, right, that he's been playing through this knee injury. It's something that has persisted. It's not something that has allowed him to be at his best, be at his finest. So Wanya Morris, he's playing through something right now. Okay. It came to a head this last game against the Raiders with some of the speed rushes. And you could just see Patrick Mahomes getting frustrated at it on the sideline. And the last chunk of the game, the last drive of the game, right? They put Joe Thuney in from left guard. They move him to left tackle, and they moved Mike Caliendo to left guard. That was their solution in game. Okay. Now, the Chiefs have known that the left tackle position has been a weakness, and they've planned for a while now behind the scenes that once DJ Humphries was healthy, that they were going to go after him and attempt to sign him. They were able to do that. However, just the timing of everything with the short week this last week, they couldn't get him up to speed and ready to go, coming off a knee injury, learning a playbook, learning the scheme, learning terminology. They just couldn't get him ready for the Week 13 game against the Raiders. After the way things went against the Raiders in Week 13, I can guarantee you beyond a shadow of a doubt that he will be suiting up for this Sunday night football game and starting at left tackle for Kansas City.
Okay.
So I think DJ Humphries, like he's going to be the guy. He's going to be the starter for Kansas City at left tackle moving forward. Andy Reid said this week he wouldn't, name him the starter because it wasn't fair to him coming off his injury and whatnot. Humphrey said himself last week, if the coaches say go, I'm going to go. So I think that's gonna show, and that he's going to be out there against the Chargers this week. And you look at his career stats, you look at his stats last season, he was having a great season last year before he got hurt with the Cardinals, right?
Yep.
I think what the Chiefs are sorely lacking at the left tackle position is just experience right now. They just need someone out there who's seen it before and who can offer maybe just even just a few more seconds to Patrick Mahomes than what he was getting from some of these young guys. And I don't think it's necessarily an indictment on Wanya Morris. I think he's still going to be a fine player for this team. You know, maybe he'll be playing at guard, maybe he'll be playing right tackle, swing tackle, maybe he'll be back at left tackle next year. He just needs to get healthy. And the same thing kind of goes for Kingsley Suamataia. I don't think they're down on him at all. I think if they weren't in a situation where like, hey, we're competing in a very, very competitive AFC, like the AFC this year right now, it's going to take 15 or 16 wins to get the number 1 seed. And they want that this year. Right. So they're going to have to pull out all the stops to get it. And you just can't have a rookie kind of learning on the fly in that type of situation. So I think that, you know, that's a reason why a guy like Ethan Driscoll, who I know they like, that's a reason why they didn't put him out there at left tackle either. They didn't want to put him in a bad spot, stunt his growth after they saw kind of what happened with Kingsley in those first 2 weeks. So I think they're confident. They have a plan for those guys long-term, but this season, the way to fix the left tackle position is 1, DJ Humphries, 2, your emergency plan, which was Thuney at left tackle, Caliendo at left guard, which was nice to see that Caliendo was doing really good that drive at left guard. I think, you know, he might be someone that in the future, you know, you're looking at Trey Smith, who's probably going to set the guard market or reset the guard market this offseason. You know, maybe that's your right guard of the future in Caliendo. So the Chiefs have some moving pieces on the offensive line right now, but hopefully that gets stabilized as early as this week with DJ.
Okay.
Humphries.
Well, that's one step, and that would be a big one. So let's talk about the receiver spot, because you have a unit that the last couple of years, you know, the ability to throw the ball down the field and stretch the defense, that the job went to Valdez-Scantling and Justin Watson. If you look at 22 numbers, Watson with 21, average 21 reception, Valdez-Scantling 16.4. Last year, Valdez-Scantling 15, Watson 17. This year, the best is only 14.3, and that's Juju because Valdez-Scantling is gone. And Juju, of course, is not Mr. You know, he's not really looked at as a full-time guy. Watson's average has been considerably lower at 11.8. Not sure what's going on there. So with Rice out, and we're going to get into him in a second, they bring in Hopkins, of course. His average is 12.5, so it's actually one of the better ones. So I guess there's a lot of questions here to get into. First of all, it must be hard to not have that guy to stretch the defense, is that danger threat. DeAndre Hopkins, talk a little bit about him and whether or not 5 or 6 more games from now, once they're going to the postseason, you think he's going to be a scary option for them and he'll have more than enough time at that point to have caught up, to understand what's going on in Kansas City. And obviously the same thing with a rookie like Xavier Worthy. The more games he can play, the better he'll be.
Yeah, I think, you know, some of the receiver struggles, at least on the deep passing game end, that's been due to projection, right?
Okay.
You know, even this last week, you know, it was kind of a gutsy play call from Andy Reid, right? It was I think a 3rd and 2 or something, right? You think run the ball, right? And it's instead a 9 protection single route from Xavier Worthy. He wins the route, but even with 9 players in protection, there is a whiff in the protection, and Patrick Mahomes got hit on the throw, couldn't deliver an accurate pass, right?
Okay.
Right. So there's something to be said about the protection struggles and the trust in the offensive line and how that's affected the deep passing game. I think some of the evolution you're seeing from Patrick Mahomes now with a veteran like DeAndre Hopkins, he's learning that even if D-Hop is covered like tightly, that you can go ahead and throw the ball up to him and he's going to force like a pass interference penalty if he doesn't catch that ball. Like he's gonna help your offense out. So I think we're gonna see some more of that, and some more deep routes from D-Hop moving forward. I think, what they need to do better with him is find out a way to use him in the red zone. I mean, I think they had 4 of their 5 red zone trips in this last game were failures. They didn't result in a touchdown, right? So they got to find a way to use him there, use his size, use his ability for spacing. They had one throw to him like in the back of the end zone where he just ran out of room, right? They need to practice that and master that if they're going to really, really use him to his fullest extent. As far as Xavier Worthy's concerned, I think, he's still a rookie, he's still learning some things. The sideline stuff on the deep routes have been kind of frustrating. I do think that better protection, like he's getting open. Better protection gives them a better opportunity to hit and throw some accurate deep balls to Worthy. And that's what you need to see over these last several games heading into the postseason, because
makes sense.
That's the type of stuff that they haven't had in this offense since Tyreek Hill. And it can happen, can absolutely happen with Worthy. They just have to get that protection just a little bit better for Pat to deliver a strike. Deep ball accuracy. People like to knock on Pat for his deep ball accuracy lately. He's one of the better deep ball throwers in the league. He's just not had the protection this year.
Oh, by the way, we didn't really even jump on Juwan Taylor. I mean, we talked about the left tackle spot, but it's not like Juwan Taylor's having a banner year as well on the other side.
I think the good thing for him this year has been that the penalties have been down a little bit.
All right.
And then, when he's on, his pass protection's excellent. And the penalties this year haven't been as backbreaking or obvious or bad as they were last year.
Okay.
I think he's surrendered a little bit more pressure, a few more sacks this year at some inopportune times, which you can't have that when you're already struggling on one side, right? So I'm hoping that, again, you get DJ Humphries in there to solidify the left side. It makes the whole offensive line look a little bit better.
All right, wide receiver is still. I got to ask you. So Rashee Rice, done. Any chance he can come back?
Nah, he's not back this year. There's no shot. He's done. However, there is someone who's coming back. Hollywood Brown.
There you go.
Hollywood Brown. He's going to be back before the end of the season. I won't be shocked if tomorrow they open up his practice window, and that by week 15, week 16, he's back in there. I think that, he's come along, that what they said about his injury when it happened is like, this is uncharted territory because, the Chiefs had this sternoclavicular joint with Tyreek Hill, right? But that thing healed on its own. It didn't have to have a surgical intervention to, put it in the right spot and have it heal properly. That's pretty rare. It doesn't happen a lot in the NFL. So they just didn't know, like, okay, how's this going to heal? When is he going to be able to, legitimately, right? Use his shoulder and his that joint area to the best of its ability, where it's not at risk of re-injury in a significant way. So they've met with doctors on, I think it's like every 3 weeks or something like that on this, and I believe today is like the day that he has his next follow-up to find out, whether or not he's getting final clearance and he's ready to go. So we will find out soon whether or not Hollywood Brown is coming back, being activated. Probably find out that news tomorrow. And it's going to be a little bit interesting because, the team's got a little bit of a logjam, on as far as, not necessarily receiver, but just offensive skill players and whatnot. We've got a ton of running backs on the roster right now. And it just feels like, where are you going to find room when you do activate him to put him on this roster? That's going to be an interesting thing to kind of play around with.
Even when he does come back, it's not going to be one of those deals where it's going to be some sort of like, hey, man, if he's back, he's at 100%. Watch out. His numbers are going to be just like you would expect them if he was starting the season week 1. it's going to take some time, isn't it?
I don't think it's going to take that much time because remember, this is an upper body injury, right? His lower body's fine.
Okay.
I think it's harder for receivers to come back from like lower body stuff, ankle sprains, things where it involves cutting, this, that, and the other thing. I think it's reasonable to expect that he's right back in there, and whatever plans they had for him this season, whatever plays they had schemed up, I think they're going to start working on those and making sure that they can get that chemistry right with Pat. As the season goes, and it just gives their personnel groupings, an entirely a different feel to them, right? Yeah. Because you can do a whole lot more now when you got another player with that 4.3 speed out there in Hollywood Brown, in addition to a Xavier Worthy, in addition to a DeAndre Hopkins, things they can do, just getting all their speed guys on the field at the same time. Put Xavier Worthy out there, put Mecole Hardman out there, put Hollywood Brown out there, put Isaiah Pacheco out there. There's a lot of speed on the field, a lot of things for defensive staff to account for. So,
and in that running back position, besides Pacheco, you talked about how there's a logjam there. I have to ask you about P. Ryan, because I was glad to see that he started to get some playing time, of course. I know there were injuries and such. And I say that because, again, me being a Jet fan, and he came into the league with the Jets, and I was always intrigued by his ability and thought, maybe this is a guy that just wasn't in the right spot, and maybe he could hang around the league and be a pretty decent role player. Statistically speaking, he looks like a pretty good role player. I mean, he definitely looks like his numbers are better than Kareem Hunt's, even though Hunt's been touching the ball more. And I know they have more confidence in Hunt based on his experience with the offense and the organization and such. Is there anything else there from P. Ryan, or do you just think that once everybody comes back, he's the odd man out?
Yeah, I mean, I think that they're going to want to keep P. Ryan right now on special teams in particular too. He's been really good there. He's been doing kickoff on the kickoff return team. He's also been doing some of the coverage stuff. Obviously, with Pacheco and Hunt back, with both of those guys in there, there's not a whole lot of room for other snaps. Carson Steele's taken some of the short yardage stuff. Clyde has been a healthy scratch for I don't know how many weeks now, 7, 8 weeks. It's been a while. So I think if anyone's the odd man out there, it's probably Clyde, if we're being real. But, the question is, are they willing to cut him? Is his health still good? Are they going to put him on the IR? Like, what do you do with him if he's the odd man out? But I do think, there's going to be opportunities for P. Ryan, but they're not going to be many. And he's got to make the most of them when he's in the backfield, whether it's catching the ball, whether it's a run play, spelling one of the two guys, Kareem and Pacheco. But last week we saw basically a 50-50 split between Kareem and Isaiah Pacheco in terms of snaps in the backfield. So I think that those two are going to be the workhorses for Kansas City. I think Kareem's going to bring the thunder, and Isaiah Pacheco is going to bring the lightning.
All right. Any chance that next year, do they just move on from Hunt at this stage of his career and like maybe Edwards-Helaire is no longer around and then he has a chance to be a legitimate number 2?
Yeah, I would really be shocked to see Clyde back. I know he's beloved in the locker room, but just from a football standpoint, I just don't see a smart that being a smart move.
Yeah.
I think keeping a guy like Hunt around, I think there's some value to that. He is getting older, but you do have to, if you're Kansas City, you have to protect yourself this year. I think it's probably through the draft, right? Because Pacheco is going into a contract year next year, and a team like this, I don't think they're situated to pay a lot of money to a top running back.
No.
So you got to protect yourself. I think they actually draft one in the top 100 picks this year. I would not be surprised. Guy I'm looking at is probably Ohio State, Travion Henderson. I think he brings, if you keep Kareem Hunt, you keep Isaiah Pacheco, you bring Henderson in as your kind of like change up third down type of back, guy who can get in there, pass protect, catch some passes. I think that's a good thing. And then obviously they're going to keep Carson Steele. They like him a lot and kind of that like hybrid halfback, fullback role.
Yeah, again, with this offense, if you put in any sort of a talent at running back from the college level, it's going to make their just like Pacheco. We know he's good, but you put him on an average team without a star quarterback and or maybe even without a competent offensive line. And trust me, I know, being a Rutgers fan. I saw what happened to Pacheco from like 1 year to his last year, which wasn't very good because their offensive line was terrible. Yeah. So that's just the way it is. Okay, so on defense, you talked about Amenahu being back, so that is that one key guy back. But you also mentioned Watson. What's the deal there? Jalen Watson, is he coming back?
I don't think they're expecting him back. I think there's if they make it all the way to the Super Bowl, I'll say there's a chance. But I think it's pretty slim. I don't think that he's gonna be back this year, and it's unfortunate because he was playing at like an all-pro type of level before he got hurt, and they really haven't been able to find stability. Opposite Trent McDuffie, they've had some coverage busts last couple weeks. Are definitely struggling in the secondary with communication, with timing, and with sometimes they're just struggling to handle pure speed, right? They've had Najee Johnson in there opposite Trent McDuffie at times, and Johnson's coming off a major knee injury, someone they really liked last year before he got hurt. I think they've kind of been the idea that, hey, we're going to give him some opportunities to go out there and prove himself. This last week he got sat for Joshua Williams after he gave up like a 43-yard reception, right? They just couldn't have more explosive plays, right? And Josh came in and was able to kind of settle that position down a little bit, eliminate the explosive plays, didn't give up a single catch all day, right? So I think that Williams is probably going to be the guy opposite McDuffie moving forward. That's not to say they won't use Najee at sometimes. I think they'll obviously use him on special teams in place of Williams. And probably there will be some instances where they have all three of them in there. They do and have been liking to use Chamari Connor and Christian Roland Wallace as kind of like, nickel or extra defensive backs at times. I do think, there's also, some need to get a guy like Jaden Hicks more involved. And we've seen that over the last couple of weeks because he's just a young rookie he's too good to have him on the bench right now. I know they'd like to, have him kind of envision him as that Justin Reed role where he's, performing maybe a little closer to line of scrimmage. Right. But, I think at times they've played him at free and it's looked good. So I think there's going to be more opportunities for him. I think there's going to be more unique instances of us seeing him. I think there's potential for him to come in and play some dime linebacker even, right? Like Spags used to do when he had Daniel Sorensen. Okay. I think that he could do a little bit of that type of stuff as well for Kansas City. But yeah, right now I would say, next to the left tackle position, finding out the right combination of players in the secondary is something that the Chiefs are still working on.
Yeah, I mean, you lose your top corner in the offseason and then maybe your top corner this year to injury, and it's not easy to replace. And then, of course, you need the pass rush. And if the pass rush isn't there and you've lost some of your top cover guys, well, there you go. Now, we just talked about getting Amenahu back, and that's a big addition. But still, you got to look at overall the unit. I believe Jones and Karlaftis are tied with 5 sacks apiece. And then the third guy is at 2.5. I mean, so there's only 2 guys on the team with sack totals over 2.5. That's not going to get it done for a Super Bowl championship type defense, which the Chiefs have had under Spagnuolo. So you get Amenahu back. What about Uche as well? Is Uche and then last year's first round pick Azuma? Is there hope there that they can start picking up the pace as well?
Yeah, I think Felix. I think Omenihu coming back is going to hurt Felix probably the most in terms of his snaps. I think he's going to have maybe like 11, 12 a game maybe now, and like you got to do more with those opportunities, right? And it's hard for a young player, but hopefully he can take advantage of that. Get a little bit more out of there. He's growing, learning. Still a young player. I don't think there's much concern there long term. Uche, obviously, trade acquisition. Someone they brought in to try and give this pass rush a little bit of juice as a speed guy. Hasn't really been there yet. Hasn't really played a whole lot, so it's not necessarily his fault. I think he's kind of going in the wrong direction. I think, at one point he was playing a little bit more, and now this last week, I think he had like 6 total snaps or something. It just wasn't a lot. I do think some of that is like schematic, and like they have an idea of what they want to use him for and who they want to use him against. Okay. He is a good athlete, right? So I think they have an idea to maybe use him against some of these quarterbacks who are more of like a running threat, and have him in there as like a potential, rusher who can spy, someone who can drop out, who can present rush and then drop out and spy a quarterback and really, be that kind of like extra blitzer almost. So I think that's kind of the plan there, and why we haven't really seen him kind of emerge over these last couple weeks. They're using him on special teams a little bit. I think they could probably use him a little more there, but we'll just kind of see how the evolution is there. I think, some of the reason they went out and got Uche, they liked him a lot coming out in the draft.
Okay.
And I think he's someone that if they had got him in the off season, he'd be performing a little bit better, because they could have really formulated a plan. I think it might have been a little overzealous to go out and get him at the mid-season mark, especially when you got a Omenihu coming back and whatnot. Really, right now, there's just a lot of cooks in the kitchen in terms of the Chiefs and their pass rush, and trying to figure out, okay, who are the best players, again, kind of similarly to what they got going on in the secondary.
All right, and before I let you go, we definitely have to talk about special teams, because Butker's been out, and then Schrader is also banged up. So they're down to their 3rd kicker the last few weeks. So what's the latest there as far as the place kicking situation?
Shoot, I mean, you can't really ask for a better situation in terms of, you get one injured, you have another come in, he's perfect. You get another that comes in, he's injured. And then, you get this guy, Matthew Wright, who you've had before, who, everyone wants to say, oh, well, he's not perfect. Well, he missed like a 59-yarder at like halftime, that they tried last week. I don't really count that, right? Like,
yeah, right.
That at one point Matthew Wright made a 59-yarder for Kansas City, and guess what? It was the franchise record for a long kick for the Kansas City Chiefs for about a week. And then Harrison Butker came back and he set the new franchise record that following week. So this guy had the team's franchise record for a week. He's a guy they're comfortable with, they're familiar with. It sucks that Schrader got hurt, because I thought he was phenomenal those first 2 games, and is really a bright young kid. I hope that maybe he can come back this week, and that the hamstring thing wasn't a long-term thing. I don't know if that's the case. Maybe, he's a guy who ends up on injured reserve when they bring Hollywood back, and they just keep elevating, the kid Matthew Wright from the practice squad, and then, go ahead and bring Harrison back when he's ready. But yeah, it's obviously not ideal, but I think, it speaks a lot to the special teams coach that the Chiefs have, Dave Tobe, and how phenomenal he is, that there has not been much in terms of drop off on this unit, with Schrader and then with Matthew Wright.
That's it.
All the credit.
People don't talk about him enough. And it's, and look, deservedly so, Andy Reid. And then, of course, Spags. But, I mean, the coaching staff, 1, 2, 3. I mean, it's bar none. I mean, elite. And so is it a surprise that this is the best team in football the last 6 years? No. I
mean, people always ask me what's the difference, right, between a good team and a bad team in the NFL, and I will always say it's not the quarterback position; it's actually coaching. Coaching.
That's it. I've been trying to tell my Jet fans that for a couple of months now. They've got just as much talent as any team, but their coaching staff is terrible. And that's the reason why they'll have a new coaching staff next year. And why, if they get the right coaching staff, they'll be right in it. But that's it. I mean, look at the Chargers, the team that the Chiefs are playing this week. I mean, that's a perfect example.
Chargers, you look at the Broncos and what Sean Payton's done with them. Just having that coach, that presence, who can focus in on the details and make you more detail-oriented, make sure that everyone knows their job week in and week out. That's the key.
And that's why the Chiefs are the Chiefs. All right, so I got to ask you, by the way, Butker, I mean, when do you think he is coming back? What's the timetable?
They said 4 weeks. So what, he's two weeks into that now, 3 weeks into that now. So, I mean, potentially for week 15, we'll just see. Obviously a meniscus injury, got to see how a guy responds, how he heals, and whether or not, he can really come back from that quite as quick. I don't think, with how a guy like Schrader and a guy like Matthew Wright have performed, I don't think the Chiefs are going to rush him back. Yeah. That's for certain.
Absolutely. It's about the postseason. That's it. Big kicks. Right. We know how important he is. All right. By the way, Araiza, talk a little bit about him, because statistically speaking, it looks like it's just been nothing special. So guys, I don't know. Has there been something that he's done to impress you?
I think he's been okay. I think, the leg has been fine. I don't think it's been as prolific as maybe people were saying it was. I don't think it's been quite as accurate as he would have liked. I think the fun thing about him is that he's been an absolute maniac when it comes to coverage. Like he's getting down the field faster than like some of his gunners, man. Like he's zooming and making tackles too. I honestly won't be surprised. He led with his head a couple times last week, but he's going to get a fine from the NFL for that one.
He should, for his own good. So, we'll see. Because he's too talented too. So who knows? Maybe he just needs to acclimate himself back to the league, because he's never been in the NFL before. But we'll see how that goes. Not that the Chiefs have, not that any outside fan bases are going to cry if the Chiefs have any issues there. They're just too good. All right. So give me a gut before I let you go, Charles. Give me a gut feeling on if they get as healthy as they're supposed to. Nothing dramatic, nobody coming out of the woodworks, but just based on what you think is going to happen if they stay healthy. What's your gut tell you on the Chiefs potentially winning their third Super Bowl this year? And what do you feel about that?
I will say that this team, if they are healthy and if they are playing their best football, which we know we have not seen yet, that they can beat any team in the NFL. I truly believe that if they are healthy, if they play their best, they can beat any single team in the league right now. Looking at the top competition, AFC, NFC, I do truly believe that. I think that the key for them is like, can you survive this next gauntlet, right? This next gauntlet of games. They play 3 games in 11 days. Can you survive that? Get out of the other side of that with a 1-game record ahead of the Buffalo Bills to get the AFC number 1 seed and get that first round bye week so you can give your guys a rest, right? Because these guys had their earliest bye week of the Andy Reid era this season.
Okay.
Right? They've been going for a long time. And let's just not forget, like, this season. They've had extended seasons, dating back 2-3 years now. Right. Yeah. Like they have played a lot of extra football games, a lot of extra wear and tear.
Yep.
A lot of that, it fatigues you physically and mentally. It is long. It is a commitment. It is hard. It's not easy. And these guys, they keep persisting, finding a way to win. And there's something to be said about that and that type of perseverance. And I think it's dangerous when you get into the postseason to be facing a team like that, that just finds a way.
I agree. I absolutely agree, because I was on board with them last year, and it made, it helped my bank account for sure. And I'm not feeling it, though, and I still won't until I see it on the field. But the information that you provided for me today definitely makes me believe that if they get these players on that field, like the Humphreys and even a Marquise Brown would be a big help. Get these Amenahu, get these guys on the field. And the question is going to be is exactly, we'll talk, of course, at some point, maybe even just before the playoffs, is where are they going to be going into the playoffs? Will they all of a sudden, everything by 3 or 4 games into the playoffs, they're just, everything's on fire and they're looking like the old Chiefs. And then all of a sudden it's back to, that's the team to beat again. And that's a different level to be at than last year, when it's like, they're going to lose. They're underdogs. So that's what I'm going to be interested in seeing, is whether or not they kind of sleepwalk into the postseason, but yet you can kind of see, hey, you know what? You watch. Now that they're healthier, we can kind of tell this is going to be different. And then when we talk before the playoffs begin, that's definitely a question I'm going to ask you once again, because they're without question the team to beat. I mean, I don't care what anybody says.
And I think a game like Sunday is going to be really telling, right? You have a wild card team, a division rival in the Chargers that they're competing for a playoff spot. Like, they need to win this game, right?
It's not the Raiders.
Yeah. The Chiefs, can they rise to the occasion and play their best football against this team? Like, they're not going to be 100%. I know that Ladd McConkey got dinged up in this last game. I know that J.K. Dobbins is out, but this is a team that's hungry, that wants to win, that has a good head coach. Can they rise to the occasion, play their best football against this team on a big stage on Sunday Night Football? That's going to be a huge test for them. And it comes right before, like I said, that 3-game stretch where they've got to play those games in 11 days. So it's going to be tough. It's going to be interesting. We'll just see how it all comes out.
Charles, great job. I really appreciate your time. And again, links in the description to contact Charles or to follow Charles on social media, the websites, Twitter, X, all that kind of stuff. So, and again, I look forward to getting the opportunity to talk to you at some point right around playoff time, Charles. So thank you very much for this time.
Absolutely. I look forward to it as well.
All right, that'll wrap it up here on the Our Lads Football Network. Don't forget, subscribe, like, share. We'll see you next time.